In Understanding by Design Stage 2, we determine acceptable evidence. More information for UBD or Understanding by Design Stage 2 can be found in the text, The Understanding by Design Guide to Creating High Quality Units by Grant Wiggins and Jay McTighe, Module G, as well as the text, The Understanding by Design Guide to Advanced Concepts in Creating and Reviewing Units in Module J. In Understanding by Design, or UBD Stage 1, we identified desired results. So now that we're moving into UBD Stage 2, we will determine acceptable evidence. It is critical that these aligned, so it is recommended that the teacher review their UBD Stage 1 template that they have completed and make any necessary edits prior to beginning the Stage 2 template. Remember that throughout the UBD or Understanding by Design process, it is encouraged for teachers to continually revisit their unit design and make any necessary changes. If you recall from Stage 1 in UBD, we determined the big ideas or enduring understanding of the unit that we are going to teach. So now that we are in Stage 2, the first thing we're going to do is to identify a performance task that will demonstrate mastery of those transfer goals and meaning goals that we identified in Stage 1. This must go well beyond any sort of multiple choice quiz, but it needs to be an actual real-world example for the students to be able to demonstrate how they're going to use the knowledge that they have gained in a real-world situation. So basically, how are they going to be able to transfer the knowledge that they used outside of the regular classroom? In Stage 1, remember that we identified standards codes, and we should use those same codes that will show the desired results in Stage 2, and that's part of the alignment between Stage 2 and Stage 1. An example of a performance task that you may use, for instance, in a math unit, might be an individual has two part-time jobs, one that pays $7.50 per hour for dog grooming at a pet store, and another that pays $8.25 per hour at a grocery store. The number of hours that this individual will work varies from one week to another, depending on the demand for the job. Help this individual find a way to earn $500 during a 4-week period. So this is a real-world scenario. This is a very practical situation, completely outside of what the student might do in class. And so that's an example of a performance task that you might use. The next step, once you have indicated your desired results codes, as well as the performance task in the middle, next to the right, you will be determining the evaluative criteria. Now, since this is a performance task, you will want your students to do something, such as you might put something like student correctly writes the arithmetic sequence to represent the money that an individual earns for each job and the function for the nth term correctly. Once you have completed the performance task section of UBD Part 2, next, you will place other evidence, such as homework, quizzes, digital assessments, etc. Now, this is because even though we identified enduring understandings and meaning-making and transfer goals in UBD Part 1, we also included knowledge and skills that may be better assessed with a quiz or a digital assessment with multiple choice or fill-in-the-blank questions. you may have included technology skills, which might be best assessed via teacher observation. Once again, on the left, you will identify desired results standards codes. In the middle column, you will indicate other evidence. One example that you may use for other evidence might be a digital or print formative assessment with a mix of fill in the blank, close, multiple choice, and equation problems that will be auto-graded with perhaps the ability to run reports based on the standards indicated in the left column. And then on the right column, we will include other evidence evaluation criteria. We want to make sure that we are including the qualities of most important regardless of the format of the assessment. For instance, I may put the students will be expected to demonstrate mastery of the concepts of rate of change and slope by scoring 85% or better on this assessment. If I included an assessment on technology skills, example of standards codes that I may include might be SMP.4, which is model with mathematics, as well as perhaps SMP.5, which is use appropriate tools strategically. An example of other evidence of use of digital tools might be students will use eToolkit slope-intercept form grapher in Reveal Algebra 1 to graph linear equations. And then for other evidence, evaluative criteria might be students will demonstrate proficiency in the use of Reveal Algebra 1 eToolkit slope-intercept form grapher to graph linear equations as evidenced by teacher observation. Once you have completed the other evidence section with the desired results codes, the other evidence, as well as other evidence evaluative criteria, then you will move to the grading rubric and critical assessment. This next step in UBD Stage 2, determine acceptable evidence, is critical assessment. In this step, you will pick one of the performance task assessments that you chose to develop a rubric to be used for grading. This will be the same verbiage of the performance task that you used earlier. Below the performance task, you will list the criterion on the left, and to the right, you'll describe what characteristics students will need to demonstrate to earn those grades. For an example, the criterion might be equation from A is correctly written in slope-intercept form as y equals negative 0.9x plus 60.6, and the equation is correctly graphed. And then to the right, you will list what is exemplary, sufficient, needs revision, and no evidence. For an example, for exemplary, you may put something like, the student wrote correctly the equation from A in slope-intercept form and correctly graphed it. Whereas for sufficient, you may put something like, the student wrote the equation from A in slope-intercept form, but did not graph it correctly. And then for needs revision, you might say something like, the student neither wrote the equation from A in slope-intercept form, nor did they graph it. And then for an example of no evidence, you may put something like, student did not provide a response. And then examples of grading for the rubric may be something like 3 for exemplary, 2 for sufficient, 1 for needs revision, and 0 for no evidence. You will definitely want to include at least 3 criteria. Anywhere from 3 to 5 is going to be very helpful in order to be able to truly show, did the students achieve mastery, did they not, and then anywhere in between. Now, once you've completed this rubric, you have now completed UBD Stage 2, determining acceptable evidence.
Thank you for joining me for this tutorial of Understanding by Design, Stage 2, Determining Acceptable Evidence. This is Dawn, and I thank you for your time.